Okay, so in this episode of Book of the Beast, we're going over the Gorkanaut and Morkanaut. We kind of combine them into one because they're very, very similar. So they both have the same stats. So they're weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 8. So front and side armor 13, rear 12. And so it's just like a Stompa in that regard. Initiative 2, 4 attacks, again just like a Stompa. That's a lot of attacks for a walker. And 5 hull points. And it's a walker with a transport capacity of 6 models. Access points at the front with no assault vehicle rules. So the two versions here are quite different, and would fill different roles. The first is the Gorkanaut, which is just a massive anti-infantry shooting platform. It's got the Deathstorm Mega Shooter, which is 3d6 shots, turn, strength 6, AP4, 2 twin-link big shooters, 2 rocket launchers, and a Scorcha. So it's just got a lot of anti-infantry shooting. The options are extra armor and grout riggers. Again, I'm not convinced on grout riggers simply because they can't fix weapons or immobilized. And this has a special rule of rampage, which is kind of nice because then we get the extra attacks if it's stuck in combat. So this is a close combat and a anti-infantry platform. The Morkanaut, though, has a lot more limited shooting, and its shooting is kind of incongruent. So it's got a custom Mega Blaster and a custom Mega Cannon. So Strength 8 AP2 gets hot, and of course the cannon is a small blast. Then it's still got the twin-link big shooters and the rocket launchers. And so it's kind of, you know, that nice AP2 shooting doesn't really go well with the big shooters and the rocket launchers. So the shooting is definitely going to be a lot more inconsistent with this guy. What this guy brings, of course, they both have the close combat weapon, which is Strength 10 AP1. And the big thing with the Morkanaut, of course, is it can take the KFF, give itself a custom force field, for 50 points. And the nice thing about that, since it's not in a model inside the transport, this will still project its KFF the full 6 inches from the model. And since this is a pretty large model, that's going to give you a pretty large area of coverage of the KFF. But again, that's 280 points for that, just to do that. So let's talk about the Gorkanaut and the Morkanaut and how they fit into your army. So the Gorkanaut obviously is just a massive anti-infantry, and it's designed to assault with that rampage rule. But again, it's 245 points. And anti-infantry really is not a problem in the Orc army, just in general. Between shooter boys and close combat with boys and Ludas, anti-infantry is not a problem. So you got 245 points, which is equivalent to about 17 Ludas. So you could have a full unit of Ludas and an Aegis for just a little bit more than a Gorkanaut. And when you're talking about that kind of firepower versus this, you know, that's going to be tough to justify that, I think. And the Morkanaut said its shooting is really limited. It's got those 2 Strength 8 AP2 shots. One is a single shot, so you know it's probably only going to hit once a game, maybe twice a game. And of course the small blast one is nice, but there's much more efficient ways to get that, specifically mech guns. If you're going to go for the custom Mega Cannon, the mech guns is a far better option than the Morkanaut. So what the Morkanaut gives you really is that KFF. But again, that's going to be a lot of points for a support unit. That really is really going to be hard to get to do any damage. And you're just going to sit there and take shots. So the biggest problem with these guys is that they are still just normal vehicles, which means they can be one-shotted with a last cannon, melt-a-gun. Anything that's AP1 or 2 can just take them out in a single shot. Sure, you can do things like put mechs inside of them to repair and give them the grout riggers, but it doesn't really matter if they just get melt-a-gunned. And for that, the combination of their limited roles, the competition for the heavy support slots, things in the same slots to do what these guys do, only better, these points are just way too much. Basically, I think these guys are about 50 points too much each. Or, what would be been even better, and probably, based on the size of the model and everything, what they were planning, is that they should have been super heavy walkers. They should have been more expensive, you know, Knight Titan area, and super heavies. So it would have been like 345 points for the Gorkanaut, exact same stats, exact same weapons that make it a super heavy. Not even a D weapon, just keep it the Strength 10 AP1 close combat weapon. Doesn't even have to have a D weapon. These guys would have just been fantastic, because then it would be a lot harder to one-shot them. they would actually be worth their points being able to do the extra things that super heavies can do. But just being normal walkers that can be easily taken out in a single shot, it's really hard pressed to justify the points cost of these guys over the other options in the same heavy support slots. So for the Gorkanaut, you know, I'd still rather take Ludas and an Aegis than a Gorkanaut. I'd still rather, I mean, Met guns are so amazing that, and the price is so cheap compared to the Morkanaut. I mean, you could literally have 10 Met guns for the price of a Morkanaut with a KFF, or 10 Met guns with custom Mega Blasts, custom Mega Cannons, for the same price as a Morkanaut with a KFF. So you'd have one, and they're going to be a lot harder to kill than a Morkanaut, no doubt about that. So I mean, that's really where these guys fall into. They're competing in the heavy support slots. They are doing things that other units in the Codex and in the same slots do better than what they do, and for a whole lot fewer points. And with this Codex, since you do have to spend more points on toys than just more units, these guys get really points inefficient very quickly compared to other things. I mean, would you rather take a Gorkanaut or 15 Ludas? I think I'd rather take 15 Ludas. Would you rather have a Morkanaut or 10 custom Mega Cannons on mech guns? I think I'd rather go that route. So, I mean, it's still a really cool model. I still want to get one eventually, but I don't know if I'm ever going to get them played. They're just too expensive, in my opinion, for what they add to the table. Especially since they don't do anything unique. They don't do anything special. They don't really... If they did something different, if they had some other rules or something other than just big giant walkers with, you know, certain types of guns, or this guy had more of these AP2 guns, like instead of the big shooters and the rocket launchers, had like 2 twin link custom mega blasters and the custom mega cannon, something so the AP2 is a lot more effective and I'd actually hit and be useful. But again, for 280 points for just a support platform that gives everything else around it and ball save, I think it's a little expensive. I'd just rather have a regular KFF mech, or 2 actually, for a lot less points. So that's where these guys are at. They're just really overpriced. They just duplicate things that other units in the book and in the same slots just do better. So I'm not really overly impressed with these guys in general. But again, if they were cheaper, like 50 points cheaper, or if they were more expensive and super heavies, then they would be good. But at this price point you're paying for them, I think they're just too much. And there's just so many better options. And because they're walkers, I said if they had any like some special movement rules, like they could go faster, or they moved 12 inches instead of 6, something so that their awesome close combat weapons could actually do something, you know, it would be different. But they're just normal everyday walkers, and they're too slow, they're too expensive, and they're just don't really add anything to your army over what other units in the book already have, and do it cheaper for the same outcome. So that's where they are with the Morkanaut and Gorkanaut. I'm not overly impressed. I love the model. I definitely want one. I'm just not overly impressed with their stats and abilities. So that's going to be it for this episode of Book of the Beast, and I'll talk to you guys later.